Welcome to Detective Diaries, brought to you by Private Detectives Answer Investigation. If you are captivated by the art of deduction, the thrill of solving the unsolvable, or the enigmatic world of private investigation, you've just found your new favorite podcast. Detective Diaries is where secrets unravel and the truth is always a clue away. Presented by Private Detectives Answers Investigation, each episodes contain offbeat conversations about the real people involved in investigation. Welcome back to Detective Diaries, the podcast where we dig beneath the surface of careers, choices, and the stories that shape them. Today, we're joined by someone whose professional journey spans high-stake decisions, public service, and now life in the private sector. Today's episode is extra special to me because we're talking with someone who's been a huge inspiration throughout my life, someone whose journey has not only shaped his own path, but also influenced mine. Our guest, Robert Hoblin, has spent decades navigating roles that most of us only see from the outside. From the frontline action in the police force to senior leadership and now leading his own company, Robert's story is one of transformation, service and reinvention. In this episode, we'll unpack that journey, what led him into a demanding and often unpredictable line of work, what kept him going and what it takes to start over after 1 year in one career. Whether you're curious about policing, interested in leadership or standing at the edge of a career pivot yourself, there's something in Robert's story for you. Robert, welcome to the podcast. To start us off, can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you're doing these days?
Yeah, Tova, nice to see you. And what am I doing today? Probably lots of leadership training and traveling the world doing that. So in the last couple of years, as far east as Mongolia and as far west as Colombia. So that's the kind of stuff I'm doing now. Lots of universities in London working with, and I'm also doing executive level coaching, usually on a contractual basis for companies.
Wow. Okay. Now, I think that's a whole story in itself, which I'm sure we can discuss another time in a different episode. But today, take us back. What was your very first step into your professional career?
My very first step, Tova, was when I was 16, I made the decision to leave school. I had good grades at school, all my friends went to university, and I just wanted to earn money. So I left and joined the Merchant Navy. So I joined the Royal Fleet Auxiliary and I went to college in South Shields, and I ended up a few years later in the Falklands War.
Oh, wow.
As a officer cadet. And when you're 18, that's not somewhere you expect to be. Sadly, we lost lots of ships. There was over 300 lives lost. So it was one of those kind of moments where you just think, you see your life flashing past you and you think, what is life all about? It was one of those kind of moments down in the Falklands. But although it was only a 6 or 7 week war, it really kind of stays with you in terms of what you've been through and what you see others go through. It's not so much what I went through, it's what others went through as well. And came back from there. And then I kind of made the decision, because when you're 18, 19 years old, you're quite naive. And I just thought, I'm going to be in a war every year from now on for the rest of my life, which I didn't really fancy. So I thought, I need to get out of the Merchant Navy. So that's when I took the decision at 19 to finish my education in marine engineering. So I did ordinary diploma and higher diploma. Then I resigned and I moved across into policing.
So do you think that you would have gone maybe a different route if you hadn't done the war?
It's a really interesting question, Tova. I suspect I probably would have stayed in as a marine engineer officer.
Yeah.
Probably would have tried to get to the dizzy heights of chief engineer, which is like the kind of top level you can get to. Traveled the world. I think this you'll probably pick this up as we go through the interview. I love travel.
Yeah.
I absolutely love travel. I love going to new places, like meeting new people. So that would have probably ticked all those boxes by staying. Where you go in terms of your marital life and all that side of it is an interesting question as well, because you just don't know in terms of that. So you just don't know. That's probably the answer to that. But what could have been?
Yeah. I mean, it's quite funny because I wouldn't have expected all of that past already just from one question. I mean, we're sat in your cottage in Newbury and it all looks very homely, and it doesn't really seem like you would be in and out and all this past. Like, it looks very homely with your cats and your pets and your chickens. But was working in law enforcement always the plan for you then, I assume?
No, it wasn't. It's funny enough because my dad was in the Ministry of Defence Police, a national organisation. I didn't really know much about it apart from his career. He tried many times to get to the rank of sergeant. He tried 17 times to get to sergeant.
Wow.
And I learnt from him, a lot of it was around who you know. There was a lot of that going on back in the day. A lot about who you know, and my dad sometimes would say the wrong thing at the wrong time. So you probably learn from your parents about what not to do. So I picked that up from my dad. So I didn't really have an ambition to join the police when I was 16, 17, 18. It just so happened, because of circumstances, I just because of war probably, I just thought, what else could I do? And I've always been very ambitious. I think there's something about ambitious. If you're an ambitious person, and I don't just mean about the monetary side of it, I just mean about positionally ambitious. Where do you want to get to? So you strive to get to Chief Constable. That's where you're striving to get to when you're in policing. You try to get to the very top. Well, I did anyway. Tried to get there. Didn't quite get there. But again, circumstances led me to a different path.
So would you say there was a particular moment or influence that really pushed you, or was it just genuinely circumstances?
I think the Falklands War itself is what pushed me. Absolutely, that's what pushed me. Not through fear or anything like that. It was more about naivety and thinking every other trip's going to be to somewhere very cold, 8,000 miles from home, and there's not much chance of meeting another lady 8,000 miles away down south. So there was something about that as well. At 19, my idea was travel the world, go into different ports, meet lots of people, meet lots of ladies. I don't mean all at the same time, but you know what I mean. But meet lots of people. But that was never going to happen if you're in the Falklands every other trip. So that's the naivety of being 18, 19 years old. You don't quite know what you want, but what it did tell me is what I didn't want.
Right. So when you were first stepping into the world of policing, what was that early experience like? Was it different back then?
It was very much different. I would say the organisation, and probably most policing organisations, very autocratic in terms of leadership. Right. And I would say that what I did learn in my first 5 years perhaps was how not to lead. Because I met some really bad leaders in terms of bully type leaders, all that kind of stuff, and not many good leaders. But I did meet one particular leader who was a sergeant at the time, and he kind of took me under his wing, almost like a kind of son-father relationship, down in Gosport, near your neck of the woods. So that was my first station, Royal Naval Armament Depot at Gosport, and a guy called Jim Masson kind of looked after me. He was Scottish. So he kind of looked after me, and I would say he was probably my informal mentor. And that was something I would say for anybody, wherever you are in terms of a job, try and get yourself a mentor. Because Jim was my kind of informal mentor, and he taught me a lot about policing itself, but also about leadership.
So you ended up, how long were you in the police for?
I was in the police just over 30 years. I actually joined in Halloween.
Oh.
So I've got an interesting starting date. 31st of October 1983, Halloween, was when I first joined the police. Yeah, so it's coming up for its 43rd anniversary, something like that, 42nd anniversary in a few weeks' time.
Wow. So what roles, I assume you had different roles along those 30 years?
Yeah. So I was a constable from the first, I've got to get it right now, first 4 years. So I was only a constable for 4 years, which is unusual. I was then promoted to sergeant at 24 years old. To a place called RAF Greenham Common, which is not far from the house. It's only about 5 miles from here.
Okay.
Yeah, so a lot of peace activists at the time. Margaret Thatcher was in, she was the Prime Minister, and there was lots going on around protesting around American cruise missiles. So I was promoted at a very young age, 24, managing people sometimes who were twice my age. So that was an interesting place to be at 24 years old. I was a sergeant for about 5 years, but I also went into training as a sergeant. So I became a training sergeant and trained new people coming into the job. And that's probably, of all the positions I've been in all my 40 odd years working, that's been the best thing I've ever done.
Okay.
Yeah, so being a trainer, training brand new people coming in, new recruits coming in on a 17-week course and seeing them pass out with uniform, mums and dads present, brothers and sisters, and saying, well done, Johnny or Sheila, whoever it is. That for me was probably the pinnacle.
Did you ever get back that old deleted message? Do you need to extract that crucial piece of digital evidence off a barely working phone? Hi, I'm Harry Watts, lead investigator and forensic technician at Answers Investigation. Hear my episode on Detective Diaries, where we unpack the world of mobile forensics and digital footprints.
So I stayed as a sergeant for about 6 years. How far do you want me to go? All through my career?
Yeah.
6 years as a sergeant, okay then. And then I became an inspector at around about 29 years old. So I was inspector for about 4 years. But I also had an attachment to the British Army for 2 years. And I was the only police officer in the anti-terrorist training and advisory team. So we travelled all over Germany, all over the UK, warning military people, police people around the threat of the Irish terrorist threat at that time. So the IRA were quite prolific at the time on the UK mainland in particular, and I was attached to the army for 2 years in my police uniform. So again, quite a unique job, quite a unique role. I was then a chief inspector. I got chief inspector in 1997, somewhere in about there. Okay. 97 chief inspector, and I then was on shift at the atomic weapons establishment at Aldermaston, which again is not far from here. So very unusual to be a shift chief inspector. So again, I was only, age-wise, probably 34, 35. Again, probably some people 20 years older than me, managing them, so managing inspectors, managing sergeants as well. And then I then went to work as the staff officer to the chief constable up at our headquarters. So I was the chief constable staff officer for 2 years. And I then got promoted to superintendent. And again, this is all down your neck of the woods, Tova. So I was superintendent in 2003. And I was the senior police officer at Portsmouth Dockyard. Oh. So I looked after all the military bases in and around Portsmouth, all the way down to Marchwood, a place called Dean Hill, Southwark, Fort Southwark, all those kind of places, all come under my kind of area of command.
Right.
I then moved to Aldershot and took command of all the London stations as a superintendent. And then in 2004, so at a young age of 39, I think it would have been, well, maybe 41 by then, I was a chief superintendent, so a very young chief superintendent, and I became the divisional commander at the atomic weapons establishment again at Aldermaston, where they have nuclear warheads, and you've got a place called Burfield next door, sister's place, and we also have a road convoy that takes nuclear warheads up to Faslane in Scotland, puts them onto submarines, and off they go out to sea for 6 months. And that's our nuclear deterrent. So looking after our nuclear deterrent, providing armed protective security.
So that's a very important job.
Probably the most important of all the jobs I've had. Yeah. If there's something that's going to keep you awake at night, it's probably nuclear warheads in a convoy on a road out in the public space. So that would probably keep you awake at night. Yeah, and I then had some jobs at HQ, operational command, charge of all the training for the whole force. And 2012 was an interesting year, Tova, the Olympics. So I had a job down at Weymouth where I would look after all of our armed protective security for the sailing events.
Right.
Which again, the public don't see that. The public see the sailing events. What they don't know is further out is armed protective security at sea and on land to make sure that there's no terrorist attack that will obviously give them publicity whilst filming's going on for a sailing event. So that was quite good. Some really good stuff for the Olympics. Some stuff I can't talk about for obvious reasons in terms of what was going on for that as well with our force helping the Metropolitan Police. So then, where am I now? So I'm near the end of my career now. So I ended up with finishing my career up at headquarters in charge of specialist operations. Okay. So operational support unit, dogs, firearms, specialist firearms teams, everything specialist came under my command. Yeah. And that's where I kind of finished my career. But I left early and an opportunity came along. There was a scheme called a voluntary early release. And I left early because I had an itch to go and do something different. And my itch was travel the world. Yeah. I could see that it was I could have probably gone a little bit higher, but I thought, now my ambition's changed. Yeah. It's not so much about getting to the top anymore because things change in life. And I just wanted to train people, share my leadership experiences, good and bad, and train other people, whether that was in policing or whether it was in military or whether that was commercial. Doesn't really matter. Yeah. And I then, so I retired on the 31st of March 2014. 2 weeks later, I was in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia. and I stayed in Saudi Arabia for a month, and I worked with their special emergency forces doing counter-terrorism type stuff, which again I can't go into in depth, but counter-terrorism is my bag, or was my bag, not anymore. Not anymore, but it was my bag. So sharing my knowledge where I could, share my knowledge, share my experience with special emergency forces on the southern side of Saudi Arabia, and to help them to protect their own people, visitors and citizens and all that kind of stuff. So that takes you right through to from Halloween 1983 right through to 31st of March 2014. That's my police career. So it's just about 30 years and a half, I think, something like that.
So going back to when you sort of said that you were a very young chief superintendent, do you think, what were your reasons that you think that you accelerated so quickly compared to everyone else?
Yeah, I would
You're allowed to brag a little bit.
Yeah. No, I would say I actually think it's about setting yourself goals, set yourself goals, set yourself targets. My goal always was to get to chief constable. It really was. There's no bone about it. I did try to get to the very top. And I think it's something around every year, set yourself a yearly plan. And I always did it around about January. Always did it around about that time where there was about 2 weeks leave in between Christmas and New Year. Sit down with family as well, because you've got to get your goals to align with what's going on at home. But just sit down and just work through I always think in 1, 3 and 5, by the way. 5 years time, what do I want to be doing? And then 3 years, that's halfway there, or just over halfway. How do I get there?
Yeah.
So what's the stepping stone in 3 years? And really crucially, over the next 12 months, what do I need to do to get to that place in 5 years? So I talk about crossing a river. The river's 5 years wide. The other side of that river is my 5-year goal. So all these little steps, lots of little steps to start with, big jump to the 3rd year, and then a big jump from 3 to 5. But the crucial bit is the next 12 months always, in terms of what you do, what your plan is. So I'd say I was very ambitious in terms of learning new stuff, courses, coaching, mentoring, which are 2 totally different things, by the way. And I'd say being with people that you know and trust that can help you.
Yeah.
So the real thing about people that you know and trust that can help you. So I'll go back to way back, Jim, the guy I mentioned at the very beginning. He was my first mentor.
Yeah.
Always looking for somebody. And I think one more thing I would say, Tova, is through my police career, I always looked 2 ranks higher, and I thought, is there anybody 2 ranks higher that I think I can do a better job than?
Yeah.
And the answer was always yes. So if you think you can do a better job, that means you're as good as. Okay. Your key bit is, how do I then get there?
Yeah.
So notice I didn't say the next rank. I always looked at 2 ranks higher, because you just think you've got to get to that next rank anyway. But I always thought about always 2 higher. And that was what kind of guided me and took me to the direction that it took me to. And I didn't pass everything first time. Some things I took 2 goes at, but near the end, it was first time. Superintendent, first board, chief superintendent, first board. So that was good. I managed to get through his last couple with the first one.
So for the listeners that don't sort of understand fully all the different roles, what is the difference between superintendent and chief superintendent?
Wow, good question, Tova. It's usually to do with command and control.
Right.
How many, or what is the position? Is it superintendent CID? I didn't have a criminal investigation detective background, but is it superintendent in training? Is it superintendent in specialist ops? Is it superintendent in station command? It can be different command areas. So what are you commanding in terms of function? Who are you commanding in terms of people? And I include civilian staff in amongst that. It's not just police officers. And again, because of my background, I can't probably go into numbers, but the larger the number of people you command, the more responsibility and accountability, the higher you go. So as chief superintendent, you've got a whole division. And that could be anything between 1,000 and 1,500 people. That's the people that are under your area of command. You're accountable for what they do. And what you do as well as a chief superintendent. So the higher you go, the more responsible. How'd you get more money?
Yeah,
so you're not going to give you more money for doing less. So it is about role and responsibility as you go higher.
Get involved. Detective Diaries is interactive, which involves you, the listener. Do you have a case you'd like discussed? A burning question about investigative life? send an email to podcast@private-detectives.co.uk or reach out via social media. You may hear your story featured in an upcoming episode. Don't forget to leave your contact details.
So all of those different roles that you went through throughout your policing career, were any of those higher roles actually sort of on foot as such, or were you more just kind of like not many people, unless it was more of a need to know who you are basis, like you weren't walking around and doing all of the hands-on bits?
Yeah. It's an interesting question, Tova, because I like the way that you said on foot. My main constable role for the first 4 years, that was definitely on foot.
Right.
That literally was going checking things, going speaking to people, all that lovely stuff. And I would say the rest of it should be on foot.
Okay.
So as a leader, what's the point in me being a leader in an office with my door shut, never going out and seeing anybody?
Yeah.
So again, I go back to my point about I looked up to certain people. And if I liked their leadership style, I would try and copy that leadership style. So the good leaders that I saw didn't sit on their chair, didn't sit in their office. They went out and spoke with their teams. They went out and had those discussions in the wet rain, in the snow, whatever it was, and not just cozied up in a nice warm office. So there's a thing called management by walking about. So leadership, I call it leadership by walking about. Go out, meet the teams, ask them questions, find out what's working, what's not working. So, and it's not a case of not trusting your higher team. It's a case of going out there and being seen as the leader.
And building rapport.
Absolutely,
as well.
building rapport with everybody and knowing everybody's name.
Yeah.
I've got a thing about getting people's names as soon as I can. So even today, like yesterday, I was in a room of 8 people yesterday. I learnt the names within about 10 minutes. I don't need nameplates. I'm really good at facial recognition. Once I've got the name in, it's locked in. Sometimes I can do it with up to 20 people in a room. And it's one of my party tricks, I guess, wherever I am in the world, I learn everybody's name really, really quickly. And there's something about learning the correct name as well, and not making the name up yourself, asking them what would you like to be called, but also listening to what they say so you copy the exact language.
Yeah, and I get that probably also helps them respect you, because as a leader, it's not you just respecting them, but they have to respect you as well.
Absolutely, Tova. Yeah, it's a good point you raised there as well, because I was brought up in a world where it's yes sir, yes ma'am, and I would just say call me Rob, don't call me sir. And for some people, they just couldn't get it round their heads that the boss is just saying, call me by my first name. But that was the kind of culture I wanted. I wasn't into yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. When it comes to crisis, at the end of the day, it still doesn't matter for me, but as long as everybody knows who's responsible for what and when. That's the key.
Okay, so looking back on everything, would you say that moment changed how you saw the job or your role in it, like sort of going from being on foot as a constable to then doing all the leadership? Like, how did you change as a person? Did you change as a person?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we're always changing as people. One of the areas I started specialising since I've left policing is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is all about self-awareness. And I wish I'd known about emotional intelligence 30 years ago. It was around 30 years ago, but not many people knew about it. And emotional intelligence is all about knowing self, controlling self, knowing those around you, social awareness, know your organisation, know your team, but know those around you. And the 4th pillar for me is relationship building. I know it now, and I've known it for the last 7 or 8 years, and I teach it now. But I just wish I'd known a little bit more 30 years ago, because I wish other people had known it 30 years ago as well. I think we probably would have been working in a much better place instead of this autocratic, authoritarian type of approach by the majority of leaders 30 years ago. Not sure if I've answered your question, Tova, but I think it is about use of emotional intelligence.
Yeah. I mean, we imagine a career like yours comes with its fair share of challenges. What were some of the tougher parts of the job?
I think the tougher part of the job is the people part. It doesn't matter what the job is, or it doesn't matter whether it's private detective, whether it's policing, whether it's in the church. Any job that you have, whether it's commercial, not commercial, charity, not charity, it's all about communication. And there's some times where, night shift in particular, I would have police officers coming in to me giving me tales of war stuff at home, not so much at work, at home.
Right.
And you're almost becoming a paid counsellor. You're not a counsellor, but it's being able to help people who are going through, for instance, sudden bereavement, and it could be a son or a daughter that they've just lost. So I had one particular guy come into me and had lost his son. His son had gone away on holiday, never returned, and to this day he doesn't know where he is. Yeah, I was telling the story just the other day to a colleague, and it's how you deal with that situation, and again back to emotional intelligence, how you demonstrate empathy. Yeah, how does that person feel? Something's going on at home for them. You don't know what it's like. It's not happened to you, but you've got to try and be empathetic in terms of how much can you help them, or where do they need to go for help? If you can't help them, who can? So there's I think those are the most challenging things. It's the people part of the job for me. It wasn't I loved crisis. Anything to do with crisis, loved it. Yeah, something's happened. Portsmouth, really good example. 5:30 one night, big alarm goes off. We've just found that the diggers outside in one of the docks have just found, literally outside our headquarters, about 300 yards away, we've just discovered a World War 500-pound bomb. And then you think, oh, that's interesting. Now what do we do? Because if that goes up, a lot of stuff goes up with it.
Yeah.
And that's all about forming cordons, keeping people safe, all that stuff I love. Working with Hampshire Police at the time, it was 24 hours before we got the bomb off the premises, out to sea, and it got blown up. But all that time, it's just crisis. And I just loved it. So anything to do with crisis, I don't find that a challenge. I think it's brilliant. But it's the people stuff that you find a challenge, or for me personally.
Right.
It's the people problems is probably the right word to use.
Yeah.
People problems, and hoping that you can help them.
Yeah.
And feeling pretty bad if you can't.
Yeah, I mean, so, because surely there must be sort of a level where you obviously want to show that you're empathetic, but you still want to keep the professionalism.
Yeah.
How do you balance the two?
That's again to a really good question. It's hard. I would say it's hard to balance the two, but you can do it. You definitely can do it, and it's an interesting point. Because my old boss, Lloyd Clark, Chief Constable, he always said to me, he always called me Robbie as well. For some reason, he called me Robbie. I didn't introduce myself as Robbie, but he called me Robbie. He said, Robbie, you need to sometimes give the staff the hierarchy of work analogy. And I said, I have no idea what he was talking about. He said, sometimes you have to let people know the organisational needs come first. Then the team needs come second, and then their individual needs come last. So sometimes you have to kind of give that needs analogy to certain staff members who think it's all about them and think that the job owes them one. And you do get people that will try and take the Michael and stretch it a little bit far.
Yeah.
I always remember, Tova, just one little anecdote here is one bloke tried to come in with an earring one day, and we had earrings a band anyway.
Right.
And he was wearing an earring in his ear, and he's got his firearm, and he's wandering around, and somebody said, hang on a minute. And he was given an ultimatum, either put a plaster on the earring for the rest of the shift, or take the earring out. And he wouldn't do either. So we just dismissed him and sent him home. Yeah, unfit for duty.
Yeah.
Because it's a health and safety hazard in a nuclear establishment.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So there's something around people seeing how far they can push you.
Yeah.
After that, he never wore an earring, funny enough. But I know things have changed in terms of what we wear and what we don't wear these days. But those are the kind of challenges. That's not a crisis. That's just somebody trying to push you a little bit and see how far they can stretch you. But I go back to my point about what my boss said. Hierarchical needs is around organisation first, team second, individual last. And some individuals don't like to hear that.
No. Yeah, I mean, I guess that the whole point of policing, like, to the public eye is putting someone else's needs before their own. So it surprises me to hear that some people who go into the police don't expect that, because surely that's the whole point of the job, is that you're helping other people before you help yourself.
It's an interesting point again, Tova, because you've seen on the news, you've seen the likes of Wayne Couzens. Sadly, there's some bad apples in the barrel, and there still is. It's a case of how do they get through? How do they get through the recruitment process and the training process without being spotted? Sometimes they don't get spotted for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
But policing is doing all it can to try and get those bad apples out. And I think any organisation, largish, I think it's always going to have some bad apples.
Yeah.
It's around having the right policies, the right processes, to identify them, and then, let's be blunt, sack them.
Yeah.
Get them out. And it's not easy to sack anybody in any job these days. It's really difficult. So your policies and your process have got to be really robust and stand up in an employment tribunal court, sadly.
Hi, my name's Ellie Merton. Come and listen to me talk about Guildford Shakespeare Company, the venues we perform in, which includes David Copperfield, which begins life at Jermyn Street Theatre, then goes to the Theatre Royal Windsor, the New Wolsey in Ipswich, and finally, Guildford's Holy Trinity Church. Listen in on Detective Diaries.
So just because I'm genuinely curious, what is your opinion personally on the policing now compared to when you were in it?
That's a good question again. I think policing is a lot more difficult.
Okay.
I think it's a heck of a lot more difficult. The diversity of policing, what police officers are expected to do now.
Yeah.
I'll just give you an example of mental health. Having to deal with mental health type situations. They're not trained counsellors.
No.
They're there to uphold the law and look at people who break the law, obviously arrest them and then take them to court, all that kind of stuff. But they're having to deal with stuff, borderline social services stuff, borderline mental health stuff, doctors stuff. And it's almost like the training of a police officer today is hugely different to the training of a police officer 30 years ago.
Yeah.
What they need to know today isn't just the law.
No.
It's not just the law. The law keeps changing anyway. As government change, law changes. But it's the things over and above the law.
Yeah.
And I look at the Palestinian protests in London as an example.
Yeah.
Whether you're for it or against it, it's not a case of that. It's more around you make a policy decision. There should be no protests, pro-Palestine protests. If there is, they're going to be arrested. 500 arrests over the weekend. Where are they going to put the arrested people?
Yeah.
There's other arrests happening anyway. There's still your Saturday and Sunday arrests over and above all that.
Yeah.
So policing is pushed to its limits a lot more, I think, today than it was 30 years ago. That's my view.
Yeah. So, I mean, by the sounds of it, obviously, you said it's a lot more difficult now. What advice would you give to someone who wanted to go into the police now?
I would say seek out 2 or 3 people who are in policing and get their advice. If you're a female, speak to some female officers. If you're male, speak to some male. Actually, speak to both. Don't just stick to one type of police officer. Diversity side of it, speak to others as well. But speak to people who are in policing for definite. I say definite. There's always somebody who knows somebody in policing. It's one of those, what I call it, the 6 degrees of contact stuff. There's always somebody who knows somebody, but don't go into it blind, I think, is the other key thing. Have a think about what is it you're going to be facing. You're going to be facing, and it depends where you're policing. If you're in a city context, you're going to be facing life and death situation. You're going to be facing death type situations quite a lot. Are you up to that? All that kind of stuff. And you're going to be facing some testing conditions as well. Public order, as an example. Personally, I think public order stuff's going to get a little bit worse over the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
So I love public order training, but I was actually a public order trainer. So I love that kind of stuff.
Right.
But because again, back to crisis, back to adrenaline, it's great stuff. I loved it. But don't go in there blind, I think, is the key thing. Don't go in there think, I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't realise we had to do shift work, is one of the things I've heard more recently.
Really?
I thought, because they hadn't done their homework.
Yeah.
We've got to do night shift? Really? On a Friday and a Saturday, that's my social time. Find out what it's all about. Really dig in and find out what it's all about. Obviously, you can use ChatGPT these days and get a lot of information, but you can't beat speaking to a current police officer and ask them, give me everything, good and bad. Shift work is not for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, and pub fights and all that kind of stuff on a Friday, Saturday isn't for everybody. Some people love it. Some people it's not for me. And it depends, Tova, which bit of policing you're heading for. For instance, if it's a detective route you want, speak to a detective. Find out what the job's all about before you actually apply for it.
Yeah. Okay, well, to end on a bit of a lighter note, rather than being told that you're getting sent to death situations, what are the memories or achievements that have stuck with you the most?
Yeah, I think I'll go back to my sergeant days, Tova, for probably my best memories. I used to also play in the police band. So I was the lead drummer in the police band. So the police band played at every passing out parade.
Okay.
So there's something about leading the drum corps at the police band for mums and dads who've come to see sons and daughters passing out. I've also played at Hendon Metropolitan Police 3 or 4 times a week for their passing out parade. So our band used to travel a little bit. So I think being at a passing out parade where son or daughter has been through the training of 17 weeks and passed out in their pristine uniform, and being somebody probably different to the person that joined 3 months previous. That's probably my biggest kind of takeaway, I think, in policing. I think doing the Olympics was another one for me personally. And my third one's probably working with the Army. You know, that very unique role of being the only police officer in a team of 5, where it was about anti-terrorism training for military personnel in particular in the UK and Germany, and just warning them and informing them of the threat of the terrorist when you're in uniform or when you're not in uniform in pubs and clubs and all that kind of stuff. So that would probably be my kind of top 3 that's off the top of my head right now.
Wow. So, I mean, you've had an incredible run in public service, and I know that when you stepped away, it wasn't the end of your story. So in our next episode, we'll explore what came next, starting a company, facing a totally different set of challenges, and building something new from the ground up, essentially. But before we go, if you could offer one piece of advice to someone who's just started out in policing today, what would it be?
I would say find yourself a mentor very early. So if you're a new constable just coming on to any police force, identify probably a sergeant that you think that you know and trust, and you're able to have really deep and meaningful conversations with, and the person can advise you as well. So get somebody. It could be a constable, it doesn't have to be a sergeant, but I picked a sergeant, but somebody that you know and trust.
Wow. Okay, well, hopefully I'll speak to you again soon, Robert.
Thank you. Thanks, Tova.
Thank you. I'm thinking back about my conversation with Chief Superintendent Hoblin, and as a young person starting her career journey, I thought the conversation we had was really impactful. Like Robert said, looking for a mentor is a great piece of advice which really resonated with me. I mean, as much as I think of him as my own mentor, there is no harm in me looking for another. When he spoke about always thinking 2 ranks above where you are now, it gives optimism and believing in yourself, which I personally think us young people need. We need that push to believe in ourselves to achieve our goals. I can't wait to see Robert again and hear all about his new business and life after the police force. And don't you worry, you can hear it too, in another episode of Detective Diaries.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast, brought to you by Answers Investigation and UK Fingerprint. If you've enjoyed our conversation and want to learn more about the fascinating world of investigations, be sure to check out Private Detectives Answers Investigation. Their experienced team offers a wide range of discreet and professional services, helping you find the answers you need with integrity and expertise. If you're interested in fingerprint analysis or require specialist fingerprint services, don't miss UK Fingerprint. As one of the leading fingerprint companies in the UK, they provide everything from identification to background checks, working with individuals, businesses, financial institutions, and gambling companies. To find out more, visit www.private-detectives.co.uk, that's a minus sign, and www.ukfingerprint.co.uk. These are your go-to resources for investigative solutions and fingerprint expertise. You can call their